Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
It's me, Egbert, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
And here we are. You know, John, sometimes I read these stories and they're very sad, at least personally to me. Story that came up this morning about Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. You know about this?
I haven't heard this, no.
You know, Brian has had some issues through the years. If you go back and look at any of the things, Brian has had some, I don't want to say mental health issues, but I guess that's what it's been called through the years. The sad part of this is apparently he's in not good shape at all, and he's actually been put into conservatorship because of the fact that his wife passed away. Brian is 81. His wife passed away, I think, a year and a half ago, and he just cannot take control of himself, his personal matters, the financial matters, and the whole bit. So he has been, by a court, matter of fact, according to the court determined he has major neurocognitive cognitive disorder and is unable to properly care for himself. So the court yesterday filed a conservatorship agreement where essentially he has two people appointed to essentially take care of his matters and his 6 kids. He's got 6 kids, which is sort of interesting. The court put together a mandated group text situation where the 2 people that are now running his personal matters and his health matters for that concern are now supposed to text his 6 siblings who are supposed to approve, disapprove of what they're doing. You know, don't you think it's sad that you go back and you look at these people, and especially people who are famous, you look at them and you see them in their young formative years, and then you see them in their more mature years, then you see them, you know, growing old, and they see them looking bad and falling up steps going to Air Force One and things like that, and and you essentially say, God, that's sad, because that person 30, 40, 50 years ago was this vital, you know, vibrant, you know, incredibly, amazing person that did this in the world. They were a recording artist, or they were an artist, or they were a baseball player, or they were a famous politician, things like that. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, but don't you think don't we experience that a lot? This is a leading question, but don't we experience that a lot when you run into somebody that you went to high school with, if you haven't seen them for 10 or 15 years, and they might say the same thing about you. They may be like, whoa, John got old. You know, like I think that's pretty common. The Post-Dispatch has a story up today, Brad, of well, I'll just say her name, of Randy Naughton. They do an update on Randy Naughton and where she is now. And I remember thinking, which, by the way, I think Randy Naughton has a ton of like true beauty. Like, I think she's a beautiful woman. And I remember thinking, God, I don't remember when Randy Naughton was like 20, but could you imagine what Randy Naughton looked like when she was like 25?
My brother dated her for a while. Did you ever tell you that weird story?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure it was Randy Naughton. Yeah.
And I didn't read the Post-Dispatch story yet, so I don't know exactly where she is right now.
Well, once again, I'll give you the skinny on this, and John, I'm going to school you on this right now. You know how people get old and they look old and they physically...
Yeah, they retire.
They retire. That's the whole thing, because of the fact that see, God, this drives me nuts. It drives me nuts where the goal, and you know what? Sometimes I get very, you've even heard me in action on the show before. I saw this happen with my parents, where after my parents retired, I mean, if you brought in Kamala Harris and she did a Venn diagram on my parents, I mean, you could easily see how they rapidly declined after they retired. Now, I'm not saying it was just the natural cause of aging, or, what their decline was, caused by aging. I say it was because of the fact, and I truly believe in this, that the brain is a muscle. And if you don't work out, if you don't walk, if you don't, and to the point where we've got an advertiser in the station, Mike Bowie, OsteoStrong, and that's essentially what his company does. Essentially, it helps people build up bone mass and things like that. Because of the fact is people become less active, and up there in years, and it's just one of those things that they talk about as people age, especially elderly people. If they fall down, their bones break very easily, much more easily than they were when they were in their youth. It's all a fact because a lot of times it's just atrophy of bones and muscles and things like that. And I get into situations where I've had people get mad at me when I talk about this, and I've actually got a couple of preachers that I used to watch on Sunday morning who address this. They would say that retirement is ungodly. And the one guy said it exactly how I feel about it. He said, this is Mr. Preacher Man on Sunday morning, this has been years ago, and he said, what do most people say when they're going to retire? And you know what most people say?
What's that?
I want to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. And his point was, that is so incredibly self-centered that you were not put on this planet to serve yourself. You were put on this planet to serve your fellow human being. You're put on this planet to, be of service and be of, physical service and mental service and all these other different aspects of life to serve your fellow human being. That it should never be all about you. And that stuck with me through the years, because how many times, especially when you get to be an old guy like me, 88, where everybody's retired, everybody goes like, well, wait, why are you still working? Why not? Because, and we tease this easily or early, and this is the thing that I want to talk about right now, is this thing called the passion penalty. And apparently this is a book that some guys come out with, and he's essentially saying that if you enjoy a certain type of job, that people will do it for practically nothing, and because of that, you're making less money. And perfect example, okay? John, I don't know what you do like on your weekends and Friday and Saturday night like tonight.
I listen to Eric Erickson because I don't have anything else to do.
No, you don't. Okay. If you go out to, pick a place, Florissant up in North County, you go out in St. Charles County, they're neighborhood watering holes, bars and things like that. What do they have? They have a band there. They have got, and typically the band is, older guys. Older guys playing, and you watch them and they're enjoying what they're doing. Now, they may have a $3,000 guitar with a $5,000 amplifier, and the drummer may be sitting on a drum kit that cost him, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. He's got his expensive Zildjian cymbals, all that kind of stuff. And what do they get paid? 5-6 guys playing in a band on Friday night. The bar will give them $300 and drinks, okay? So you start figuring out, okay, now hold on a minute, you got 5, let's say you got 5 guys, you divide that by 300, you guess, what is that, $60 a piece? So in other words, that's the passion penalty in extreme example. There's no way they're making any money at that. Right. I mean, it's not, they're probably not even paying.
Well, that's not why they do it.
Because they love doing it.
Yeah. And tied to that, first of all, they probably love music. They also love being on stage. They love having high status in that environment. There's a whole host of reasons why they might do it.
Well, no, I understand. And because they're musicians, there's a creative aspect that they like to do. And once again, and not only that, I mean, I used to spin records at wedding receptions and things like that. And there was, not that it was for me being on stage or anything like that, because we were, but when you had a good group of people and you had like a good wedding reception where you got the music right, I mean, you felt that vibe. Me personally, like, wow, this is so cool, because I am really having an impact on this group of people. They're having fun. They're enjoying themselves. They have a smile on their face. They're out there on the dance floor enjoying themselves. So there's a satisfaction, and I know you looked at it from the they're on stage and everybody's looking at them and they're having that self-realization that they're an important person. No, I don't think that. There's some guys that are like that, but not everybody's like that. But the whole idea behind this is that if you had jobs that nobody wants to do, for example, in California, why they want to pay fast food people $20 an hour? Because nobody wants to work fast food.
Yeah.
Why do you pay, why we talked about this earlier this week, the new teachers union president in Chicago, she wants to raise the pay 9% a year for the next 5 years, and she wants to have paid for abortions, and she wants to have this paid for and that paid for, and I'm going but you look at the statistics, what do I talk about that? What do we say, the 8th graders, when they did an assessment of 8th graders, that like less than 20% of the 8th graders could do math at an 8th grade level. I think it was less than 15% of the students could read on an 8th grade level. You start looking at that and you go like, now hold on a minute now. And any other thing, that would be like you hiring a painter to paint your house, and the guy, and he knocks on your door one day and he says, okay, I'm done. And he says, can I have my check? And you walked outside and you go, well, you only painted the front side and you only painted a little bit. Well, I just got sort of tired of that, and I decided, the front looks good, and I just painted the front and the first part of the sides because nobody looks at the back of your house. Yeah, but I paid you to do no, don't worry about it. Nobody's going to see the back of your house. I'm going to see the back.
I agree with you, Brad. Now, first of all, here's just from my point of view, I always check out the backside. Secondly, I wouldn't be in that position because, as you know, if somebody came up to me and offered me a paint job or a roof job, I would make sure they were Frederick Roofing level quality. I wouldn't go by some fly-by-night group. Third of all, going back to retirement, it's one of the things that I remind people all the time of why I love working with you. You've always had the trait that despite your advanced age, let's face it, you're always trying new things. You were lecturing young people about TikTok long before it was a thing. You keep up on all the YouTube trends, the analytics, things like that. You're a great example of somebody that came up in the old school of an industry, being radio, that's not averse to new things. So that's one of the best things about you, Brad. Finally, someone texted me last night, and no, I won't say their name, and I will take their name to the grave. And this person, who is I won't tell you their status, or you would have you would be at full mast, I should say, said, did Brad say he's 88? He has to be teasing, right? And I said, he's joking, but he sells it well.
You don't believe I'm 88? Born in 35, went to high school, graduated in 53? Come on.
Now I'll tell you exactly what I told this person. I said, in my response, I said, but he sells it well. And this person said, he doesn't sound 88, but you're correct. He was convincing with his confidence. You know those false numbers very well, Brad. Anyway, people buy into the line that you're 88 because you sell it so well, Brad. Anyway, but overall, let's reflect on this for a minute. One of the great things about you not retiring is the fact that you stay up on all the stuff, Brad. And think of how many radio people are bitter, and you've talked about it before, just sit around and complain about how the world has passed them by. And in my day, people respected the radio, and we used to sell a lot of those ads. Well, you know what? Things are different these days. Well, and you don't complain about it, you adapt to it.
God, it's really funny that you said this, because sometimes I find sarcasm as a very interesting way of making a point. And the other day, Jay Philpott, I don't know if you know who he is. He's been in the radio business in the St. Louis area a long time. On his Facebook post, he posted a long post talking about, I'm sick and tired of hearing these radio people who are not in the business talking about, oh, the radio business is doomed, and I can't. I'm glad I got out of it. I told you this, how I had like a little bit of a war with a guy from North Carolina or something like that, talking about, oh, the radio business is terrible, blah, 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 because he got out of it. Okay, so I post a little post, and I got a couple little interesting feedback on it. And I'll just off the top of my head, I'll sort of summarize what I said. Yeah, it's really sort of sad. Radio was doomed back in the late 40s and early 50s when all the TV shows went to, or all the comedy and variety shows and music shows went to television, and radio didn't reinvent itself. And this guy by the name of Dick Clark came along and tried to turn radio into a musical jukebox, and it didn't work. And then in the 60s, and I went through this whole thing. Then in the 60s, then in the 70s, rocket, in the 60s, in the late 60s, early 70s, then this new thing came along called FM broadcasting. And nobody listened to FM radio, and FM broadcasting became a tremendous failure. And then in the 70s, this thing called 8-tracks came along, and the car manufacturers took the radios out of all the cars and put 8-track players in. And to this day, they still have 8-track players. And then in the 80s, this guy by the name of Rush, some Hoosier from Southern Illinois or from Southern Missouri, came along and tried to do a national talk show, and he flopped at it. Okay, what I'm saying is everything I brought up was the fact that our industry has gone through all these incredible challenges, and who knows, we may be down for the count this time with the internet and social media and the whole bit, but every time for the last 50, 60, 70 years, every time radio looks like, oh my God, radio's getting his butt kicked, things go great. Dick Clark reinvented radio. Dick Clark with guys, with Dick Biondi and guys like Wolfman Jack changed the face of radio in the 50s and 60s. Then along came FM broadcasting. You had stations like KSHE that ended up on FM. And even KSLQ was like an early adopter of FM in 72. Matter of fact, we used to get people who would say, you guys are like an AM station on FM, because at the time all the top 40 stations were on AM. And then you had all the changes in the 70s, and people thought, oh my God, with the 8-tracks, that's going to kill radio. Oh my God, the cassettes are going to kill radio. Oh my God, CDs are going to kill radio. It didn't happen. Rush Limbaugh came along, started this talk show thing, and everybody go, oh my God, who's going to listen to some guy yak for 3 hours? Within 20 years, he had 600 affiliates, and he was being invited to the White House by the president and stuff like that. See, it just frustrates me because of the fact that, and so many times people have so many closed mind views and things like that, and I'm battling a couple battles right now this week that are just driving me nuts, because I'm dealing with Neanderthal knuckle draggers that are just like doing stupid crap that just drives me nuts. You know what I mean? And
I do understand that.
And then you've got the Tracy Ellises of the world who decide that because of the fact that you don't believe in everything that she believes in, that there's something wrong with you and you're a terrible person. You're a rhino. Oh my God.
Well, Brad, you know who you are. And other people's opinion of how you rank in this or that, or how they treat you, that doesn't dictate how you have to treat them or how you have to conduct yourself. And you know that.
Well, that's why I compliment Tracy Ellis all the time. See, how many times do you think she ever mentions me on her radio station? Let me think. 0?
yeah, I wouldn't know. I'm blocked.
But see, here's my whole point. My whole point is that I've talked about this before. I see what these guys are doing on YouTube, and I see this new generation of YouTubers who cross-promote each other. I can give you these names. If you're into cars, you'll know who these names are. Cletus McFarlane.
Yeah, I remember Cletus.
Right, you talked about that. You made fun of him. He promotes all these other YouTubers, and he has them on his channel. And those guys have other guys on their channel, and they will say, hey, if you like Chevys, I'm a Ford guy. This is Jim. He does Chevys. And they're cross-promoting each other. In our industry, it doesn't happen. You get all these...
we do it, Brad. We do it.
All
you
the
and
time.
I do it.
All the time. And I'd be the first to admit that when I get off the air, my typical day is I edit up the show that we've just done. I put it online. You do some massage to it, and bang, it ends up on YouTube and a bunch of different places. And by the way, I don't understand the Mark Lamping video, but that's a whole other story.
There's no Mark Lamping video.
Did you?
And it's private. It's a John Lamping video. There's no Mark Lamping video, and it's private, and I haven't added the captions to it. And by the way, if people are interested in our YouTube video, also read the captions.
Okay,
read the captions, folks.
By the way, you can go right to our YouTube by going to bjshow.video. Okay, but the point I was trying to make was, I get off the air. How many times have I talked about I listen to Patriot, 104.9. I listen to 97.1. I listen to KMOX. I listen to NPR. I listened yesterday, like in my car, I probably listened to 10 different radio stations. I listened to Z107.7 for a while because I still enjoy listening to that style of music with the DJs and the whole bit, because that's what I used to do back in the day. And yet I'll say loud and proud, the radio business is still here, still very vital, but yet, just like you said, there's so many people, just like me, I got caught up in the thing. I heard the story that farmers have been sued for volunteer crops from Monsanto, and you set me straight on that, right?
Yeah, there we go. And you know what? We can talk about it Sunday in Maplewood, Brad. I'll see you at Immigration Song.
Bye, John.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?